And I want to begin this morning by asking you a very broad question. You're here to celebrate a simcha, a beautiful simcha, but what is Judaism? What is Judaism? If you think about it for a few minutes, your answer might be, it's a religion. Maybe another answer, it's a people. Maybe another answer, it's a race. I've got news for you, it can be all of those things, and even more. I want to be a bit specific. So, I can see here that some people I know here who I know are very good in the sales world. So, let me be more specific. Suppose you were hired to sell Judaism to others, to be a salesman for a product called Judaism. What is it about Judaism that you would highlight to focus on as your main selling points? And while there can be several good answers to this question, I want to start with some easy ones. Perhaps we might be selling the fact that Judaism is a way of life, that it's a value system, that it's a community, that it's working together for the common good, that it's sharing with and helping others. Now, all these answers are indeed worthy, but I want to share with you one answer which comes directly from this morning's Torah portion which Cash read this morning for us. One which might not only be an answer to the question, what is Judaism, but which might also be a great start in terms of selling Judaism to others, because that's what we have to do today. This morning's parashah, this morning's Torah reading, contains a verse which might be familiar to you. It reads, Ukratem dro ba'aretz l'chol yoshveha. And that verse is usually translated, proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. Does that sound familiar to any of you, especially if anybody's visiting from America, from down south? Proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all its inhabitants thereof. If it sounds familiar to you, it's because it is the inscription that is found on the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia. And if you didn't know this before, you now know that this most famous inscription comes directly from the Torah. So before I go on, just in case you didn't know, there's a little bit of history with the Liberty Bell. In 1751, the Pennsylvania Assembly ordered a bell to commemorate the 50th anniversary of William Penn's 1701 Charter of Privileges. His charter, Pennsylvania's original constitution, speaks to the rights, the freedoms, and the value of all people, particularly Penn's idea on religious freedom and his inclusion of citizens in enacting laws. And it was to commemorate the Charter's golden anniversary that the quotation from the Torah, proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants, was particularly apt. For the line in the Torah that immediately precedes proclaim liberty goes on to say, and you shall hallow the 50th year. What better way to pay homage to Penn and hallow the 50th year with a bell proclaiming liberty? Now, how does it make you feel knowing that one of the great symbols of freedom of North America and democracy actually is quoting the Torah? I think that's pretty good. Most people don't know that. But how do we arrive at those words, proclaim liberty, or kratem dror? It's not an accurate translation. Does dror really mean liberty in the political sense that we have come to know it? It doesn't. It really means release. And it refers to the release of the lands so that it can revert to its original owner, which occurs in the 50th year. If there are any landowners here, you should know that the Torah lays out very specific guidelines for which the lands have to be returned to the original owners in the 7th and the 50th year. Thank God it applies just to Israel. So why is that? The Torah, along with the laws and the rules on how to serve God, offers us an economic blueprint describing the type of society we should build. One that is based on ethical behavior and the realization that it's not all about money and self-interest. If we look at the Middle East for a second, by way of example, here's a question or two. Why do we constantly hear of third and possibly fourth generation Palestinian refugees still living in refugee camps in the West Bank or in Gaza or in Lebanon? And why do we hear virtually nothing of the hundreds of thousands of Jewish refugees from Europe, from Arab countries, who lost all their possessions and fled for their lives, came to North America or to Israel to live? And how come Jews from all over the world and from all walks of life have managed to become integrated and assimilated into either North American or Israeli society without much problem? And the answer to these questions is quite simple. It is because our Torah and our religion don't just concern rules and regulations. Instead, they provide us with an ideal economic system by guiding us how to deal with worldly goods, how to engage in business, how to deal with others in business, and how to treat the land. The Torah really is the first modern economic system. And as Jews, we have been guided by this system for thousands of years. So what is the economic system I'm talking about? Is it capitalism? Well, sort of. Socialism? A little bit of that too. Here are some of the examples of the system. And Cash, you should listen to this, because as you now are a bar mitzvah and you grow up, you can be putting a lot of these things into up here to remember to call upon. In an agrarian economy, it was assumed that people could own land. In fact, people could own lots of land. But you have to give various portions of the produce of that land to support the temple and to support the priests and to support the Levites, because they had no land. They weren't allowed to own land. And moreover, you had to share the land with the poor. Maybe some of you here remember the famous story that we read on Shavuot of Ruth, who met Boaz, and while she was gleaning the corners of the field that were set aside for the poor. What other economic system or religion requires such a set aside for the poor? Why do we have these rules for this economy? Because of the values that this system comes to teach us. It's not only about bettering ourselves, it is about our responsibility to others, to humanity in general. We read about the idea of the sabbatical year, of letting the land rest once every 7 years. The rationale for this is to reinforce the message that human beings are not the ultimate owners of the land in their possession. Rather, the land, all the land, belongs to God. In other words, while we may be permitted to acquire material wealth, we must remember that it's really borrowed. And there's one more thing. The Torah goes beyond the agricultural economy and also guides us in a commercial economy as well. It tells us that when you sell your property to your neighbor, you shall not wrong one another. What's the definition of wrongdoing? The Mishnah defines wrongdoing as the charging of an unfair price. I would like you to know that an unfair price is taking a sixth more than the going price. In fact, for I guess we could call a short time after the sale, the buyer could even return the item and get his money back. Today we have laws for that, but they didn't have laws in those days. In other words, the economy is premised on the concept of fair exchange, between two people, a word, a bond, and a belief in one another. The ultimate point of these principles is to curb our greed. We are prohibited from taking advantage of gullible consumers. We are told that commercial transactions should not be entirely market-driven. Why not? Because in Judaism, ethical considerations serve to protect the social fabric. And lastly, we read the requirement to help others, particularly when they are in need. The Torah says that if your brother becomes poor and his means fail him, you shall strengthen him. You shall not take interest from him, so that he may live among you. He may live among you with dignity. Again, there is an affirmative requirement to help the poor, and it's also coupled with prohibition against charging interest. Yes, the Jewish economy system is capitalistic, but it's capitalism with a heart. In other words, the way we do business, it's not just about coming to synagogue, it's not just about praying, it's not just about recognizing all the festivals. It's about being economic in the way we conduct our lives. And the Torah reading that you read this morning, Cash, serves to reinforce the value of that system. And with this in mind, I want to go back to the original question I posed at the beginning. Why is it that Israel has managed to build a thriving economy for the 21st century and the Palestinians have not? How is it that Israel can start out with an agrarian economy led by kibbutzniks and turn it into a modern, technologically advanced society? And the answer is, as you can now hopefully see, that we are guided by certain fundamental principles which are designed to not only better our own lives, but also to better the lives of those around us. Jews have succeeded over the years because of our adherence to these principles. Yes, it's okay to make money, of course it is. And yes, it's okay to accumulate wealth, no problem. But there is a social responsibility that goes along with that. We're not only to see our self-interests, but we have to see the needs of the community at large. And this is where you're going to come into this, Cash. You're going to be there to help the less fortunate in this world, to be part of the community. And that is the message which has helped thousands of Jews over the years. Think of the societies that had existed and still exist to help recent immigrants and those in need. We have here in Montreal, I'm sure some of you are aware, it's called the Hebrew Free Loan Society. Think of the various Jews of the family services, omets, who they serve. We've succeeded and we will continue to succeed because we help each other. So the next time that you think or hear, particularly of the Liberty Bell, remember the original message of those words that they were meant to convey to us from the Torah. Ukratim Dror. It's not merely political liberty we're proclaiming. It's our values. It's our unique way of life. It's our responsibility to our fellow man that we are proclaiming and we are selling. Not only to our fellow Jews, but to the rest of the world as well. Think of it. And is that such a hard product to sell? I think if you put it that way, you'll sell it quite easily. Let us reach out to others. Or be salespeople, particularly today when Israel is facing such an onslaught across the world. We need to be the salespeople for our religion and for the state of Israel. I'll conclude with this. Dr. Bernard Walschlager. He's the son of a Nazi. And he would end up converting to Judaism. And he relates the story that when he first met a Jewish person, an elderly Holocaust survivor, he was struck by the numbers that were tattooed on his arm. And the man said to him, "Stop looking at my arm. That is not what Jews are about. Judaism does have something more to offer, a lot more. And I shared just one brief aspect of it with you this morning. May we all be worthy of growing stronger in our Judaism, particularly you, Cash, today, who takes on the mantle of the Jewish people. Up until now, you basically get away with the fact that you said, I'm a kid, it's not my fault. Anything that I do wrong falls on dad's and mom's shoulders, according to Jewish tradition. Not after this morning. Now it's all on you. It's your job, whether you like it or not, to sell Judaism, to sell Israel to others who are in the process and thereby truly going from strength to strength and from success to success. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. We continue on page